you mentioned in that workbook, and I maybe brought this up before because I was so excited when I saw it again, that there was a debate about lesbians being in women's washrooms. That people were freaking out about that. And so to me, that's like, oh, it's so perfect because of the trans, trans women in the washroom. So people were afraid. So I got to ask you about that.
Yeah. Well, then yes, it's very linked because it was the butch lesbians who were misgendered when they used the bathrooms that got the violence. I never got any violence, so it's the same, that gender boxing and who gets to be where perceptual glitch, and the hatred of anyone who isn't quite right, or the whatever for people who aren't quite right. Yeah, I think there's lots of linkages there.
Did you, thinking back to like the 70s and 80s, you might not have been harassed in washrooms, but did you ever experience any kind of harassment for your gender presentation or your sexuality?
Did I? Well, just the verbal attacks from other feminists, from heterosexual feminists, the homophobic attacks, but not that it was pretty mainstream homophobia. It wasn't specifically focused on either me personally or, I mean, I was the recipient, but it wasn't about me or my gender presentation at all.
Well, how could it not be about you if you're being receiving homophobic insults?
It was about it. It wasn't you, Nym, are green slime and should go back into the gutter from where you came. It was you lesbians are. So
when you say that you experienced though some hostility from straight feminists, can you describe that? Do you remember what that was? Those interactions were like?
Yeah, that was the whole BCFW, the first year of the British Columbia Federation of Women and Lesbian Caucus, trying to get the Federation to adopt lesbian rights policy, and the other not all by any means, some of the other standing committee members, the heterosexual feminists, were very unwilling to publicly support lesbian rights, particularly in the smaller communities where they were living, the conservative smaller communities where they were living, and their own anxieties came out not just in a refusal to support policy, but in really homophobic attacks against those of us that were at the meetings, and lesbians in general, but us who were at the meetings and making the proposals. So that was the most, that was, for me, that was the most overt example that I lived through of heterosexual feminists being unsupported. And that's why we did the work. I mean, that's the beginning of how the book came to be story. We decided they needed to change their minds. So we set out to do so. But I remember it really, really well. It was pretty vicious. Sarah, my partner Sarah, came to the one meeting. She was at one standing committee meeting where that happened. She never went back to another meeting. She says she was busy, but I remember her saying, "I feel like I've been run over by a truck." So it was hard. It was hard.